Oh, check that out for a winter battleship. 54 pounds. Join us for a winter session to remember. Mega. That is a heavy old winter cod, just under 53 pounds. If you can find the fish, the results can be mega. That's a bite. Can't teach this, kids. Just under 53. Yep. For this instalment of the CarpFix session film, you're joining me at Gigantica's road lake in France. Now, normally this lake is closed from November until March for fishing, and the reason it's closed is that the previous owner has the shooting rights in the winter. Now, that said, the bailiffs still have permission to fish here for security reasons, for keeping eyes on the water and making sure that all the lovely fish that live in this lake stay where they belong. Now, we were looking for somewhere to come fishing for a winter session where we had a good chance of catching fish, and Road Lake ticks all of those boxes. It's 25 acres in size roughly, holds about 800 carp, and for that reason, you know, I think it's a good sort of proposition for a winter bite. You know, lakes that don't have weed, lakes that have got a good head of carp, they tend to fish well during the colder months. Now, although we're in France and although this is a commercial carp fishery, the tactics, the techniques, the ideas, the thought processes are all very much relatable to fishing back in the UK in sort of your standard day ticket sort of venues. And for me, if you're trying to look for a winter lake, somewhere where you stand a really good chance of catching fish, you know, you have to pick somewhere with a good head of carp. You know, you want to be fishing for hundreds of carp, not 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. You know, a lake that's got several hundred, a lake that doesn't have weed, and a lake that has sort of previous winter form. You know, lakes that, you know, throughout the years have generally produced. So, yeah, Road Lake, great proposition for some winter action. Let's see how we get on. Now, with the Saturday always being a bit of a rush job, especially in the winter months when the days are so short, last night we chose not to fish. We bivvied up in a swim at the very near end of Road Lake, and the main purpose of bivvying up and being close to the water was to try and determine if fish were in that area. You know, would you hear anything? Would you see some fish jumping? That sort of stuff. Now, Ben, the bailiff, who's been fishing on there a little bit through the winter, he said that he was pretty certain that the fish were in that part of the lake, like the near end as you drive into Road Lake, and that we should be in Bacheliers, I believe it is, where we bivvied up, or the Poo and the Goo, which are just to the left of where he's been fishing in Tea Party 1. But I woke up between 1 and 3 in the morning, I had a good walk around, and I was tossing and turning all night, as you do when you're excited when you first arrive, and I never heard or saw a thing. Now, it was absolutely freezing yesterday, like highs of 1.5 degrees, so not the best conditions for expecting carp to show. But that said, almost by process of elimination, you know, the fact that I'd seen nothing down there whatsoever made me want to go and have a sort of a look in the opposite end of the lake. Now, Road Lake is sort of two bowls of open water that are sort of connected on the corners. We've come round to this swim, which is the beach. Now, the beach is one of the best swims on the lake at most times of the year. It's on the back of the wind, and we saw a little bit of bubbling off of what is called the Bund, which is a bit of a dam wall where they've dammed off a real snaggy part of the lake. Now, I can't be certain if that bubbling was definitely carp. You know, it was just a little bit of bubbling. You know, it could easily be just gas being released from the bottom, but it could just as easily have been fish. So that sort of was the first thing that drew my attention to this area. And the second one was, as I was sort of I'd seen that bubbling, sort of thought I'm going to walk round to Billy's, and obviously your trousers are rustling like back and forth. So and I'm a hood up as well, and I didn't hear anything, but I glanced round and out to the right, probably sort of 40, 50 yards to the right of the swim here, there was a big set of rings out in the lake. Not, again, not 1,000% carp, you know, but a sizable fish had topped, and I could see a line of bubbles of whatever had topped has obviously filled up its head cavity with air, and as it was moving off I could see the bubbles coming to the surface. Now I would say it's a 75% chance that that was a carp, and when I continued on my walk round a little bit further, Ash was still in this area getting some GVs, and he thought he heard one out here as well, and saw a big set of rings out there. So considering we've done best part of 12 hours overnight at the opposite end and seen nothing, within half an hour of being in this zone we've seen bubbling and 2 possible shows. So that's the thing sort of to really bear in mind when you're winter fishing, is the fish are very likely to be balled up. Now there's 800 carp in this lake, and I'm not saying every single carp is in one group, but I think it's fair to say that if you do find a big pod of them, you could easily be fishing for 100, 200 carp in one shoal. So it's worth spending the time looking round, trying to locate one of those pods, because if we do manage to find fish and pinpoint them, I'm sure we could catch a few, because the most difficult thing in the winter is the location. But if we do manage to find them and do pinpoint and really focus where they are, then I think we've got a good chance of catching. Well, now I've got to prove that, haven't I? Oh Bosh, quick, get here, get here, get here, get here. That's your African tree spot, mate. That's your African tree. Right, that's where we're going. Going out there. Right then, we are in the beach swim. I've made several casts with my leading rod. Not loads, I haven't gone wild, because I don't want to scare off any fish that are potentially in the area, but I'm almost certain at this point that we've made the right decision. You know, while I was leading around and just before we're about to do this chat, one has jumped out just to the left of where that bubbling was. Oh look, one's just absolutely hoofed out there at the back. Yes! Well, maybe that changes the game, that. The bubbling was... Right. Right. And that one was 100% a carp. The other shows we'd seen were sort of like, maybes. This was 100%er, and because that's 100%er, it's making me think that the other shows probably were as well. So I don't know what to do for best, in that, should I fish 3 rods in one area, concentrate my bait and try and pull them in, or should I spread my rods out and give myself sort of more scope, because I don't know exactly where the fish are within the swim. You know, I don't know the lake, I don't know the spots. But having just seen that one show out the back, I think I'm going to put one where I saw the bubbler. There's a lovely spot out there at 22 wraps and 7 feet. Coming to the right of that towards the life buoy, again, it's still really, really nice out there. So I could put one out there, or I could put 2 on the tree where I'd seen the bubbler, near where I saw that fish. And it might be better to concentrate 2 rods on one patch of bait. But the third one, I'm going to put out here. There's a white bag in the tree, and in a big U in the tree line. And a fish showed out there earlier this afternoon. And I made one cast with my leading rod, and it just went down really quickly. Bang! Not gravel, and the lead wasn't plugged. And it's quite rare to find hard mud like that where the lead doesn't stick in. So that spot's really, really drawing me as well. With regards to bait, I've made a mix of hemp, boilie crumb and sweet corn, and the boilie crumb's crushed pretty fine. I'm not looking to get any sort of heavy food items out there. The boilie crumb's more used to take on the smart liquid, take on the juices from the hemp and the sweet corn, and keep the fish rooting around without really filling them up. You know, the water is very, very murky here. I'm expecting to catch the fish in the dark, and because of that, you know, they've got to find the bait based on its smell. So I want a real stinky sort of mix, concentrated over the hook baits, and that should help them find them. But at this point in the session, very early on, you know, I don't know the lake, I don't know the spots, I don't want to go in too heavy. So I'm probably going to put somewhere between 10 and 20 spoms on each spot. Enough for the head of fish that are in here, but not too much that if they're not really feeding, I've overcooked it. But I think that's a good starting plan, and having just seen that fish, I'm feeling good. And we are fishing. 2 rods out the back there. I baited that from the far side, not for any other reason than it just shortened the distance down by, it's about 25% of the distance. It's only 5 wraps from over there off the bund, as opposed to casting 22 wraps from here. Just much quicker, much easier, much more accurate, and seemed like the right thing to do. 3rd rod is out in that U in the trees. I've got 10 spoms on that single rod and 20 on the longer spot. All of my rods have got the combi multi-rigs on. They've got match the hatch sort of cell, 15mm cell wafters, tipped with slow sinking plastic maize. And I think that's a good starting point. Might change to pop-ups, but I always feel that pop-ups are at their best when the fish can see them. And because I'm thinking the water's very, very coloured, and I'm thinking there's probably a better chance of catching at night than in the day, I think fishing on the bottom with a combi multi-rig is probably the best course of action. Now, at this point in the session, I don't know the lake, I don't know the best spots, but I do know that this is a good swim. I do know there's definitely fish in the area, and at this time of year, if you're in a swim with fish, if you can find the right spot, which is probably the most important thing next, you know, if you can find the right spot where the fish are, multiple takes, multiple catches can be very common. It's just a case of getting the rig and the bait exactly where they want it. And if they are balled up like they often are in the winter, then we could be in for a good session. But that is what you call counting your chickens before they've hatched, because we haven't even had a bite yet, but I'm feeling pretty good. With Harland in front.
Ruben Amarin can at least make his first derby selection off the back of a European win.
Ash. Okay, no idea what time of the night it is, but the right hand rod of the 2 on the bait over the bund out the back has just gone.